Good morning, guys. We are in חוק לישראל, זאת הברכה, יום רביעי. יכוון בקריאת שישה פסוקים אלו, שהם כנגד ו', דמילוי ו' לשם בן, לקנות טהרת נפש יתרה משבת הבאה. השם חודשה ברכו, ושכנתה בתחילו ורחימו לחדש שם אות י' כ' בו' כי בחדש שם בשם חודשי ולהקמה, שכנתה מעפרה הריני קורא בתורה. שהיא כנגד תפארת דזעיר אנפין שבו שלושה כלים דשלוש בחינות נפש רוח נשמה הוויה כלי החיצון דנפש אות י' ואות ה' כלי אמצעי דרוח כלי פנימי דנשמה בחינת העולמות המקיפים שהם יחידה חיה בנקודת עולם לעשות לה מרכבה ויהי רצון מלפניך אדוני אלוהי בדברותי ככה את רוחי ונפשי שיהיו ראויים לעורר עיין תטעין על ידי קריאת התורה הזאת, בל יקב שום חטא ועוון ויגבול את קריאת התורה הזאת, ויהי נועם אדוני דהינו עלינו, ומעשה ידינו כהן עלינו, ומעשה ידינו ברוך אדוני לעולם, אמן ואמן. וממגד ארץ ומלואה ורצון שוכני שנא תבותה לראש יוסף ולכל נזירך, וממגד ארץ ומלואה ורצון שוכני שנא תבותה לראש יוסף ולכל נזירך, ומטוב ערעה ומלאה וראה לדשכינתה, בשמיה בעל משה יתגלי ועשנה יתון קל אילן לרשע ליוסף ולגברה פרישה לאחי בכל שלו הדה לו וקרני רעם קרנה בהם העמים ינגח יחדיו אפסי הארץ והם ריבות אפרים והם אלפי מנשה בכל שלו הדה לו וקרני רעם קרנה בהם העמים ינגח יחדיו אפסי הארץ והם ריבות אפרים והם אלפי מנשה ומגד את מלאה ורצון שוכני שנא תבותה לראש יוסף ולכל נזיר אחיו לבת דבנוהי זיבה דאוגורן דאית אבידה למקודם תתוקפה ולומה דילה בגבורתה עממיה יתקטן כחתה עד צייפה ארעה לבתה דבית אפרים ונון אלפיה דבית מנשה ולזבולון אמר שמח זבולון בצאתך מישכר באוהליך ולזבולון אמר שמח זבולון בצאתך מישכר באוהליך ולזבולון אמר חדה זבולון במפקח נגחה קרבה על בעלי דבבך וישכר במהכך למעבד זמני מועדיה בירושלם עמים הר יקראו שם יספחו צווחי צדק כי שפע ימים ינקו וספוני תמוני חול עמים הר יקראו שם יספחו צווחי צדק כי שפע ימים ינקו וספוני תמוני חול שבטה יד ישראל לתור בית מקדשה יתכנשון תמן יכסון נכסת קודשים נכסי עממיה יכלון בשימה דמיתמרה מתגליה להון ולגד אמר ברוך מרחיב גד כלביא שכן וטרף זרוע אף כל ולגד אמר ברוך מרחיב גד כלביא שכן וטרף זרוע אף כל ולגד אמר בליך אפתה לגד כלתה שרבי כתול שלטונין עם מלכין ביד ראשית לו כי שם חלקת מחוקק ספון ויתר ראשי עם צדקת אדוני עשה ומשפטיו עם ישראל ביד ראשית לו כי שם חלקת מחוקק ספון ויתר ראשי עם צדקת אדוני עשה ומשפטיו עם ישראל והתקבל בקדמתה דילה הרי תמן באחסנתה משה ספרה רבה לישראל כביר והוא נפק ועל ברש עמה זכבן קודם אדוני עבר בדינו היא עם ישראל ויהי אחרי מות משה עבד אדוני ויאמר אדוני אל יהושע בן נון משרת משה לאמור והווה בתר דמית משה עבדה לאדוני ואמר אדוני ליהושע בר אינון ושמשונה למשה ואמר משה עבדי מת ועתה קום עבור את הירדן הזה אתה וכל העם הזה אל הארץ אשר אנוכי הם לבני ישראל משה עבדי מית וכאן קום עבר ית ירדנה הדן את וכל עמה הדן להראה דענה יהב להון לבני ישראל כל מקום אשר תדרוך כף רגליכם בו לכם נתתיו כאשר דיברתי אל משה כל אתרא דתדרך פרצת רגליכון בלכון יהביתה כמה דמללית עם משה. Here in this pasuk, you can see, guys, that in Yehoshua, he's telling the people, כל מקום אשר תדרוך כף רגליכם בו לכם נתתיו כאשר דיברתי אל משה. And God is telling Yehoshua something that Moshe Rabbeinu told all of Bnei Israel, that when you guys go into the land of Israel, all the places that you're going to place the heel of your foot, meaning you're going to occupy that land and you're going to take over that land, God is telling Yehoshua in Pasuk Aleph, Perek Aleph of the first of the Nevi'im, that all that land is your land in Eretz Israel. And Moshe Rabbeinu even went farther. Moshe Rabbeinu told Bnei Israel, Kol makom asher tidchu kaf lechem, bo lachem yihiyu. He said, all the places that you're going to step foot in your land. So Yehoshua was in the land of Israel when he told them this. Moshe told them this when they were in the Transjordan area, when they were traveling through probably the Saudi Arabian desert, the Jordanian desert, outside of Sinai, what is considered Sinai today. And he told them all the places that you're going to walk is going to end up being yours. And this is what Reuven and Gad ended up presenting to Moshe Rabbeinu. They told him, if this is the case, then we can stay right here in the Transjordan area. And they told Moshe, you just told us all the places that we are going to step our foot on, it's going to be considered Admat Israel. And they weren't wrong in that sense, but the actual promised land of the Am Yisrael is obviously in the land of Israel in of itself, and the greater part of Israel, because David HaMelech, he went to battle and had Yoav ben Tzruya go all the way up to Halab, to Aleppo, Syria, and Damascus, and all those areas in the time of David HaMelech were part of the greater Israel. My family is from Lebanon, and my father used to always tell me that in Tzidon, the Jews there used to keep Pesach one day, and they kept all the customs of Israel. They were so close to Israel, and according to all the historic locations, this was the land of Israel. So they used to keep one day. So it's kind of interesting that even God repeats what Moshe Rabbeinu told Bnei Israel to Yehoshua, that all this land is yours. If it requires a battle for one reason or another, it still is your land. Let's take a look at Rashi over there. Just like it said to Moshe, Veshaninu besifri. In Ankev Yud Aleph Kaf Daled, Im lilmod al techome Eretz Yisrael harehu omer mehamidbar v'davanon hazeh. Meaning, if this was really God telling Yehoshua, it's it's not wherever you're going to walk. It's just the borders of your land, and you could walk within them. The reason why Rashi seems that it could not have been that, because the pasuk later that's coming up is going to say Mahamidbar v'halevanon hazeh v'gomer v'im ken lama ne'emar kol makom asher tiroch af chutz la'aretz, even land outside of Israel that can be taken over. Mishe תכבשו את הארץ, כל מה שתכבשו מחוץ לארץ יהיה קודש ויהיה שלכם. Now this is very, very important. I remember when at one time I had a talk with Rabbi Abraham Shor about buying some other homes and properties, and I said, should I sell this one or whatever? And we went back and forth, and he said, nah, don't worry, keep it, it's okay. Then he told me another one, you should sell it. Then he said to me once, it's okay. He said to me, if you do mitzvot in that property, it's going to end up coming to Eretz Yisrael. And I said to him, yeah, Rabbi, I'm like, I learned that too, but I'm like, we can explain that in two different ways. We can explain it that the house is going to literally get uprooted from its home and property and be replanted into Israel. I understand. That's the regular. But if you actually look in the Mefarshim over there, you could see that there's actually a much simpler interpretation that is probably more pertinent. It's that when the Mashiach comes, Yerushalayim, the city of Yerushalayim, is going to be extended into the land of Israel that is currently the land of Israel, or maybe the original borders of Israel. That would become Yerushalayim, and then the greater parts of the world are going to become Israel. Not that they're going to have sovereignty of Israel, but they're going to be Israel in the sense that the Mashiach is going to be here. The Navi Zachulatov would have arrived. There was going to be peace in the world. No one's going to be fighting for any reason, and all the reasons for fighting are going to be abolished, that people are going to have no reason to want to fight a war for land. And he's going to end up settling all that. So it's kind of interesting. So I told him, I'm like, based on this, I'm like, my house can actually stay in exactly the same location. And lo and behold, that will be considered Israel. It might not be considered Admat Eretz Yisrael from its original, land of Avraham Avinu, Lech lecha ma'artzecha, but nonetheless, it would still be considered Israel. When I told him that, he smiled. He's like, yeah, but it could also mean that the house is going to move. I said, yeah. I said to him, but these are two really, we have to explain it in a way that it makes sense. And that's what it was. מהמדבר והלבנון הזה ועד הנהר הגדול, נהר פרת כל עץ החיטים ועד הים הגדול, בבוא השמש יהיו גבולכם. Lior, good morning. How are you? We were just explaining. I know you just walked in the middle of this hidush, but this is a blockbuster hidush. We're in the Chok LeYisrael Zot Haberakha Yom Revi'i in Nevi'im in Yehoshua, and it's pasuk Gimel. If you want to read it, I'll explain to you what we just said because you walked in, and this is a real blockbuster. It's in Gimel. Kaf, Kaf. Okay, so what happened here, this, if you notice from Pasuk Al, it says, this is God talking to Yehoshua in the first Pasuk in the Navi, in the first Perek in the Navi. And what is he saying? He's saying something unbelievable. He says, all the places that you put the heel of your foot, that is what I am giving you. Interesting. God is saying, that's if you were in the land of Israel and you, for some reason, they took over additional land, that's God directly saying that's for you. Just like I spoke to Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu told them also the same thing. He told them, this is why Reuven, Gad, and Hatzim and Hashem, when they wanted the Transjordan area, and they told, it wasn't Hatzim Moshe Rabbeinu had a Hatzim Moshe, but it was Reuven and God. They came and they said, listen, we want this land. We have a lot of sheep. We need a lot of grass to graze all the animals. And Moshe Rabbeinu was very offended. He said, I'm praying 515 tefillot va'et Hanan to come into the land. God is telling me that it wasn't going to go into the land. And all this process, and you guys are okay with staying back here? He was so upset. He was so mad at them. And he rebuked them. And besides that, he made them go as the frontline fighters when they went to battle, which was the riskiest of all locations. He was very upset. He said, I don't understand. And they said, look, but you just told us that anywhere we take over is going to end up becoming Eretz Yisrael. And he was right, they were right, but he was trying to say to them, he's like, this is not the land that God had given. Yes, it's God that it's the land you took over and God granted it to you, but this wasn't the original gift. You're enjoying the wrapping paper around the gift, not the gift itself. And Rashi brings down over here, he says something interesting. He says, how do we know that it wasn't just talking about the original borders? Which means, let's say God already had given us the land in its borders of Israel, and this pasuk was just saying all the places that your heel of your foot goes, that's yours, meaning within the confines of the land. Rashi says no, because in the next pasuk it's going to mention the desert, the Lebanese lands, the river, the Had Perat, and the Yam HaGadol, which is the Mediterranean. And Rashi said it could not have been referencing the actual land. It was referencing that any parts outside of Israel that they take over through battle becomes kadosh, it becomes holy. That's Rashi's words. It's miforash. So technically, when Israel took over the Sinai desert because they went to battle, that is admat kodesh. I don't know how it works if the land is returned. Meaning, based on what we see here, if they took over the land, that was God's gift. If somebody from the nation of Israel came and decided, we want to give it all back, for whatever reason, and it's based on a unanimous decision. It's usually never unanimous, and never will be. But let's say it is. Let's say everybody agreed, give it back. Yeah. Does it take away from the Kodesh part of the land that it got? Or does it become Chol again? Or does it got that Kodesh because that was land that in modern times was taken over? It's a good question. I don't know. I'm going to speak with some of the rabbis in Israel on that. Because it's kind of interesting. Let's say they took over Sinai. And it ends up becoming Admat, as you say, Kodesh. And now they end up returning it. Let's say a guy goes on vacation to Pesach. Or does he do an extra day? I don't know. I'll have to ask the rabbis on that. Because I mentioned earlier that my father and mother were from Lebanon, and in the southern parts of Lebanon, there was a place called Sidon Seda, and they used to do the holiday one day. People did their holiday only one day. It was in Lebanon proper, but because that was Eretz Yisrael, according to almost all the opinions, it was Israel. It was they did it. Okay. מהמדבר הלבנון הזה ועד נהר הגדול, נהר פרת כל ארץ החיטין ועד הים הגדול, מבוא השמש יהיה גבולכם. ממדברה ולבנונה, הדין ועד נהרה רבה, נהרן לפרט כל ארעה חיטאה ועד ימה רבה מעלני שמשה יהא תחומכון. So it sees the word techumchon, the word techum in Aramit is the word gevul. You see that? So it's good. When we say eruf techumim, you know when they're doing eruf on that on a techum, you know that techum is Aramit for the word gevul. I'm mentioning this because you're going to see it. Where I like to point out these Aramit Hebrew words because some of them are wild. I showed someone recently that the word glida comes up in Unkelus. And yeah, and it's not talking about ice cream. It was talking about the man. That the man used to melt like ice cream, or like a sorbet, like a white vanilla sorbet.
And he referred to the man as glida.
As glida. So we'll look that up after in Kollel Boker second part. We'll look that up. It's a great one, and we'll do a recording on that one. לא יתייצב איש לפניך כל ימי חייך כאשר הייתי עם משה אהיה עמך לא ארפך ולא אעזבך. Wow, what a comforting pasuk. You know, Yehoshua comes in on the job. God, you know, he observed Moshe Rabbeinu over 40 years, leading the nation. Yehoshua ben Nun is the general, by the way. Interestingly enough, Moshe Rabbeinu anoints the first leader after him that is a fighter and a general. He was not just a leader. He wasn't just like, let's say, on the Sanhedrin or one of the Zekenim or something of that nature. Yehoshua was a fighter. Besides a learner, Tamid Hacham, a prophet, he led the battle, which is interesting. It seems that in the realm of Moshe Rabbeinu, those that are leaders have to be the ones who can fight. Otherwise, they can't lead. Because Moshe Rabbeinu did it, he was able to go to Paro and tell him, I don't like the policies you have in place. You got to change them, or we're leaving, or we're going to whatever. And Yehoshua has that same, he learned from his role model. He learned really well from his role model. And what very comforting pasuk, God tells him, no fears. I will be with you all of your life. Just like I was with Moshe, I will be with you. Lo arpecha velo ezveka, lo yit'atad enash kodamach kol yomei chayach. There will never be a man, a human being, that will come in front of Yehoshua to bother him. And this is very interesting. That's why Yehoshua ben Nun later on, when he sees somebody holding a sword, he knows it's a malach, and he knows that it's a message from God. And we'll bump into it later on. And you can ask the question, how did he know that was a malach? Because he already had a prophecy that no man is going to approach him in a dangerous way. So he had already, I guess, deduced that had to have been a malach, and he took the message as a message from God. חזק ואמץ כי אתה תנחיל את העם הזה, את הארץ אשר נשבעתי לאבותם לתת להם, תקע ועדים ערי עד תחסן, יד עמה הדין, יד ארעה דקיימית לאבת הון, למיתן להון. Okay, let's read the Ketubim. We're just going to read it quickly, and then I'll try to stop in some important places only because we want to try to cover some more ground on the daily Choklisiyat. Okay, quickly, read. Shame'ah. שמעת וחדת כנשנת דציון בית דציין ונתה לבית יהודה מן בגלל דינייך אדוני. What we mentioned yesterday, remember that Ketubim will be the entire Sefer of Mishlei from beginning to end, and when we're done with it, we go into Tehillim, which is the end of the Torah now, so we're in the Tehillim part. Okay, can you read that in English? That's a great pasuk.
The Rashi or the English?
No, the English, actually.
For you, Lord, are most high above all earth. You are exalted far above all gods.
Unbelievable. Arum at'abhu Adonai illa al kal yatve ara'am hada it'alita al kal dachalaya. You know, today, what's interesting is that when people praise God, they don't never praise this way. Which means
Yeah,
when God says, thank God, he helped me. God said, God, you are the God that is better than any other gods. Okay, it's interesting how that's a constant reference, meaning because there are people that worship
Yeah.
other things.
But first, it's not even a concept. If you have another God, God,
But it's like we passed that. It's like
Yeah.
the entire Tanakh is everyone praising that our God's better than every one of the gods. But today everyone says, "Oh, thank God, Baruch Hashem."
What other God?
But there's
Yeah.
avodah zarah and there's addictions to things that people make their gods. Ohaveh Adonai sin'u ra v'nafshot tehazah b'yad l'shem yatzilein. Read that one in English. It's a great one.
O you that love the Lord and despise evil, he preserves the souls of his pious ones. He delivers them out of the hand of the wicked.
Unbelievable that those who love God, they hate ra.
Mhm.
They hate bad things. Now, what does ra mean? It's good. We have to check that out. Ra means bad, but it's a good question. How do we find what was ra? And it's not everything. Just like, for example, not everyone's considered a rasha. Someone who does a sin is not considered a rasha. Or someone, who does something menial, it's not rasha. There's certain categories, or like what's called a shachin ra. What's a bad neighbor? So the Mefarshim right there, a bad neighbor is a guy who lives in a town with a shul and never walks into the shul. That's considered shachin ra. It's like meforash. And so when we know this, you can have a guy that he's not the best neighbor. You know, he might be doing things that are isur, but he's not a shachin ra.
Yeah.
He comes to shul every Shabbat. He's not what you would consider, according to Sfarim, a shachin ra. Echimaya trai senu vish. Metu dekeris naten nafshat chasidoi min aidehon derashi'e yifsun einun. Or zarua. That's a great one. Or zarula sadiq ushledev simcha. Now, if you look at the Sofet Tevot of this pasuk we say it on the Yamim Noraim. Or zarula sadiq ushledev simcha. And there's a lot of sigulot with this pasuk of what it can do for a person. But if you look at the end of the pasuk, let's look at the last letters of Or is Rish, Zarua Ayin, La Tzaddik is a Kuf. Ushle is a Yud, Alev is a Bet, and Simcha is a Hey. What do you have that? That's a Rish, Akiva, Rabbi Akiva ben Yosef. You have that in there. There's a secret in that pasuk. Nehor dena chumitama lesadikaya veliterisel libach edva. Daniel ish hamudot. Boker tov. שמחו בצדיקים בני והודו לזכר קודשו חדון צדיקה בממרה דני והודון לדחרן שום קודשי. מזמור תושבחד נבואה שבחו קודם עלי שבח הדד ערום פרישן אבן פריקת לימיני ועדרה שכינת קודשי. רבי חנינא סגן הכהנים העיד 4 דברים. רבי חנינא the סגן of the kohanim, he was made 4 different things. מהם של כהנים לא נמנעו מלשרוף את הבשר שנטמא בבלד הטומאה עם הבשר שנטמא באב הטומאה, אף על פי שמוסיפים טומאה על טומאתו. הוסיף רבי עקיבא ממהם של כהנים לא נמנעו להדליק את השמש שנמצא בטבול יום. Interesting. I want you to see something so far. I don't know what's coming up in the learning today. We have prepared here. Look at this stack of what we have coming up for today. Look at today's stack. We got a lot of interesting things to talk about Torah. We have the Etrog. We're going to look at Shar HaMitzvot today. We have a question on Masechet Kiddushin. We're going to speak at Rabbi Shaul Dabach again on the Serene. We have a lot of stuff we're talking about today. But I want to show you something. So far, we bumped into Rabbi Akiva on the Ketubim, and we're bumped into Rabbi Akiva on the Mishnah. I have no doubt Rabbi Akiva is going to be with us today. Watch how it's going to come up multiple times. Let's go. Read the second Mishnah. Amar Rabbi Hanina.
לא ראיתי אור יוצא לבית השרפה, אמר רבי עקיבא, מדבריו למדנו מהפשיט
שהמפשיט את הבכור
ונמצא שרפה, יותר כהנים.
Mafshit is when they removing the skins off the body of the animal. החכמים אומרים
לא ראינו אינו ראיה אלא יוצא לבית השרפה.
Okay, so there's an argument. The Hachamim say no, they didn't. They if it's no good, they'll burn it. אף הוא העיד על כפר קטן שהיה בצד ירושלים והיה בו זקן ואחד והיה מלווה לכל בני הכפר וכותב בכתב ידו באחנים החותמים. ובא מעשה לפני החכמים והתירו לפי דרכך אתה למד שהאישה כותבת את גיתה והאיש כותב את שוברו שאין קיום הגט אלא וחותמה ועל מחט שנמצאת בבשר שהעסקים והידיים טהורות, והבשר טמא ואם נמצאת בפרש הכל טהור. שלושה דברים. שלושה דברים.
שלושה דברים אמר רבי ישמעאל לפני חכמים בכרם ביבנה. על ביצה תרופה שהיא נתונה על גבי ירק של תרומה שהיא חיבור. ואם הייתה כמין כבוד,
כמין כובע, like a hat,
אינה חיבור.
אינה חיבור. ועל שיבולת שבקציר.
שיבולת שבקציר ובראשה מגיע לקמה, אם נקצרה עם הקמה, הרי היא של עניים. של
בעל הבית, הרי של בעל הבית.
בעל הבית?
ואם לאו, הרי היא של עניים. תדע, אם נקצרה
עם הקמה, הרי היא של עניים.
הרי היא, oh, you have to, הרי של, let me see that. Let's see here. Oh wow, your Mishnah is different than this one. So let's take a look at this again. חיבוד, ועל שיבולת שבקציר, שראשה מגיע לקמה, אם נקצרה, הקמה הרי היא של בעל הבית. Wow, this two, wow. Okay, so this is a Mishnah right here. Let's take a look. This is a Mishnah in Eduyot, Perek Bet. The Chok L'Israel HaMaor, Chamisha Chumshe Torah, Machon HaMaor. They have it written down, this Mishnah, Va'al Shibolot Shebekatzir, Verosha Magia Lakama, Im Niksera Im HaKama, Harehi Shel Baal HaBayit, Ve'im Lav Harehi Shel Aniyim. But if you look at the Edmond J. Safra, the English Hebrew one, he has this Mishnah different. Wow, there's two different texts. He takes out completely Harehi Shel Baal HaBayit, Ve'im Lav Harehi Shel Aniyim. So that's the words. We'll double check it in the Mishnah book, and we'll see whether the correction, the letter needs to go to Safra, or the letter needs to go to this other one. We actually reached out to Art Scroll on a mistake in their Chumash. I don't know how they printed it wrong, but they printed in a bunch of them. We're going to reference it in today's learning. So it's interesting. We found another correction that we can send to the author. I learned from my dad a long time ago. He would always make corrections in Sfarim, but I learned that you're not supposed to make the correction in the Sefer itself. You should make it on the side. On the side. It's not in the book itself, for whatever reason. Okay, let's continue. Harehi Shel Bayit ve'im lav harehi shel aniyim ve'ad gina Aris.
אם יש בה מלוא בוצר וסלו מכאן מלוא בוצר וסלו מכאן
תזרע ואם לאו
לא תזרע.
שלושה דברים אמרו לפני רבי ישמעאל ולא אמר בהם לא איסור בהיתן אופר שען רבי יהושע בן מתיה המפיס מורשע בשבת אם לעשות לה פה חיה ואם להוציא ממנה לך פטור ועל הצד נחש בשבת אם מתעסק שלא ישכנו פטור אם לרפואה חיה ועל לפסים עירוניות שהם טהורות בעול המת וטמאות במסע הזהב. רבי אלעזר בן צדוק אומר אף במסע הזהב טהורות מפני שלא נגמרה מלאכתן. שלושה.
אמר רבי ישמעאל ולא הודה לא רבי עקיבא השום והבוסר והמלילות שריסקן מבעוד יום שרבי ישמעאל אומר יגמור משתחשך ורבי עקיבא אומר לא יגמור.
So Rabbi Ishmael, three things Rabbi Ishmael said, and Rabbi Akiva was not hoda. He didn't accept it. He didn't praise him on it. Hashum v'haboter v'amelilot sheriskan mibe'od yom. Rabbi Ishmael omer yigmor mishetechshach. Rabbi Akiva omer lo yigmor. What's interesting about this? You know what's interesting about this? That the student of Rabbi Akiva had a completely different learning. Rabbi Akiva was not modelo, but seemingly the argument is very much accepted. Very interesting. I want to see quickly if Rabbi Ovajami Barton said something on it. Okay, on this specific. Okay, שלושה דברים אמרו לפני רבי עקיבא. שניים משום רבי אליעזר ואחד משום רבי יהושע. שניים משום רבי אליעזר. יוצאת אישה בעיר של זהב ומפריחי יונים פסולים לעדות. What's מפריחי יונים? מפריחי יונים are the people that what they used to do? They used to send out doves. This was very common in Lebanon. from like there were these old people. They would live on the top of the buildings, and they used to have a stick. My dad told me they used to have a stick, and they trained certain pigeons to go out and take other pigeons to train them. So they would have like an army of like 5 or 10 pigeons, and they would train them to go out and get other pigeons, and they would use them as messengers to get information and things of the nature. And my dad told me he would sit like on the top of a building with a stick, and he would somehow signal with his stick, and suddenly the birds would go into circles, and they would come next to him. He would be able to they would come near him. He could put a paper in them. He would know how to signal to them where to go, which I don't know. I don't know how that works. I would love to understand what mafrihei yonim, how this process worked, but they were able to train these doves and pigeons to do it. Interesting, the difference between the pigeons here and the pigeons in Brooklyn. The pigeons here, they look like doves. They're like a white gray. There's no black dirty pigeons here. In Brooklyn, all the pigeons are black. Oh, these people that do this business of mafrihei yonim, of bringing in birds, these people are not trustworthy people. You can't trust them.
You mean they can't be witnesses? You can't trust them.
They can't be witnesses. If they can't be witnesses, I don't know about the trust part. But if the Hachamim didn't trust this guy in the court of law, why would I? It'd be the last guy I'm going to trust. Meaning, you're trusted in the Bedin. You're not pasul has v'shalom le'edut. So why would, if a guy's pasul le'edut, there must be something he's doing. And there's another one, misachet kuvya, the guys who gamble. They play with kubya, like the dice, kubya, and the guy who throws dice, those guys also, you can't trust them. He'll say anything to win, yeah. ואחד משום רבי יהושע, השרץ בפי חולדה ומהלכת על גבי כיכרות של תרומה. ספק נגע, ספק לא נגע, ספקו טהור של שע.
שלושה דברים אמר רבי עקיבא, על שניים הודו לו, ועל אחד לא הודו לו. על סנדל של ציידים, שהוא טמא נגרס, ועל שירא תנור 4, ושהיו אומרים 3, והודו לו, ועל אחד לא הודו לו. על כיסא שניתנו 2 מחיפוייו, זה בצד זה, רבי עקיבא מטמאים חכמים
מטהרים. ויאמר האב זוכה לבן בנוי ובכוח ובעושר ובחוכמה ובשנים ובמספר הדורות לפניו, והוא הקץ. שנאמר קורא הדורות מראש אף על פי שנאמר ועבדום ועיינו אותם 400 שנה, ונאמר ודור רביעי ישובו הנה. Let's look at that. That's a very interesting one. It says, who ayamer? Who's who? Who's who? Who ayamer? No, I think this is Rabbi Meir. No, is this a Mishnah? It's a Mishnah. And what's the Stam Mishnah? We learned that in Masechet Megillah. Rabbi Meir. No, I would think this is Rabbi Meir. Who ayamer ha'av? The father is Zochel Laben, Banui, in the form of beauty, ubakawach, strength, uba'oshir, wealth, uba'chokhmah, knowledge, uba'shanim, years, u'mispar hadorot lefanav behu haketz. What do you mean years? The Gemara tells us that Baneh Haye Zone, Baneh is the children, Haye is the length of life, Zone, La Bizchut Tadia, B'mazal Tadia, has nothing to do with your zchut, has to do with your mazal. Interesting, this Mishnah. Let's look at the Rabbi Akiva. Here's our other Rabbi Akiva that we bumped into. I told you he's coming back. Rabbi Akiva is going to be with us today. Boker Tov. Lefi shekarov teva haben lehiyot domeh leteva av. It says the son is going to follow the nature of the father, but in what way? Let's see. He says the other stuff that a person gets from the time he is created, just like his nature. Interesting. So the teva of the ben is to be similar to the father. And wealth, a man gives over to his son. This was before the estate tax that was established. Back in the day, wealth was given over generation to generation, and it produced massive wealth. You understand? You have to imagine 5, 6, 7 generations of a good, strong family operating a business and building up on their land. No estate tax, many freedoms. This kept on. This is one of the reasons they established estate tax. I don't know if today it does what it's supposed to anymore, but that's what they originally wanted it for. He haspera v'hayshara. Okay, so he says the chokhmah that's talking about here is talking about svara, being able to deduce things. That's determined on the person based on his nature. Hashanim, the years, arichut hayamim. Shanim, he says here, doesn't mean years. It means the length of a person's days. What does it mean? He gets that from his father. If your father is a guy that wakes up at 4 o'clock in the morning and he studies and he goes to learn, you're going to take that trait, like he said, and by doing that, we don't know the length of the person's years, but we know we can guarantee with that behavior, your days will be much more valuable because you're going to knock into the day a lot more and get a lot more done. The funny thing they always say is that if you want to get something done, don't give it to somebody who has free time. Give it to someone who is busy. Because somebody who is busy will get more things done. Interesting. So here, Rabbi Akiva is telling us that if a person is zoche, he has banim naim, good boys. Naim is pleasurable. Ba'ale kowach, they are strengthful. Ba'ale chokhmah, they are knowledgeable. Ashirim, they're wealthy. Marichim yamin, and they extend their days. So this is something a person has to be zoche. Zoche means it's not going to drop from heaven, in a package and be delivered in a stork bird with a baby in its mouth. What it's talking about here is that a person has to be zoche. How are you zoche? Tzedakah, tefillah, gimilut hasadim, and then the biggest zechut is to sit down and learn, because there's no bigger zechut to get arichut yamim shamin and then to learn about doing the mitzvot and then further yourself, because we said yesterday, what's the motto of shul.com? The Talmud Torah keneged kulam, and the study of Torah is equal to them all. When I chose it as the motto of shul.com, I wasn't kidding. I sat on many committees, quite a few boards. You can sit and do a lot of hesed for Am Yisrael, and do a lot of different things that is great, and we need those people. But I wanted to choose something and focus in, and I figured there has to be someone that's going to be on the forefront, that's going to explain and show that studying the Torah supersedes it all. It supersedes everything. Okay, let's continue. That's the next one. Af hu haya omer. Okay, read that one.
אף הוא יאמר 5 דברים של 12 חודש. משפט דור מבול, 12 חודש. משפט איוב, 12 חודש. משפט המצרים, 12 חודש. משפט גוג מגוג, לעתיד לבוא 12 חודש. משפט רשעים בגיהנם 12 חודש. נאמר והיה מדי חודש בחודשו. רבי יוחנן בן נורי אומר, מן הפסח ועד העצרת, שנאמר מדי שבת.
B'Shabbat. Oh, wow, this is great Mishnah. I love this Mishnayot. They give this like unbelievable information. Af hu haya omer. He used to also say, who's he? The one who said the previous statement. Mr. Who? Who it seems is Rabbi Meir. The who's who. There's 5 things that are from 5 for 12 months. It's like a good riddle. What are the 5 things brought down in the Mishnah Eduyot on 12 months? Mishpat Dor Mabul. Okay. The Noah, the time of Noah, the Mabul was a 12-month session. Mishpat Iyov, the book of Iyov, from the beginning till its end is a 12-month period. Mishpat HaMitzriim, that seemingly must be the Makot, was a 12-month thing. Interesting, because there were 10 Makot. I believe each Makkah was in a sense a week or a month to one extent. But I think there was also time off. Mm-hmm. So I believe there was time, between the Makot. They weren't constant. So that could have been why it was 12 months. Maybe we'll get into that. Mishpat Gogo Magod Atid Lavo. Interesting. That's the only one that they tell you here. The Atid Lavo. Yeah. Every other one told you the thing. But it's interesting. Mishpat Reshaim Begehinam is also 12 months. But the Gogu Magog, he tells you is a 12-month period. Wow. Person's gonna have to save up his stuff for a 12-month period with Gogu Magog. Unbelievable.
Do you think that applies to wars maybe 12 months? Or just that whole Geulah period?
I'll show you why it's comforting when it says it's going to be 12 months. Mm-hmm. Why am I comforted? Gogu Magog, it's a war battle. What do you mean you're comforted? Because I'm going to use the same understanding that I used with the same previous. Mishpat HaMitzriim, 12 chodesh. when the Egyptians went through their mishpat, it was 12 months. What was happening to Bnei Israel during that time? Nothing. They were protected the whole entire time. All the Makot were coming, and there was great massacre in Egypt from the Mitzrayim. Bnei Israel are all fine for 12 months. Nothing happened then.
It's actually definitely the opposite. They gained great wealth selling water when there was blood.
And that was Mishpat Mitzrayim. So anyone who's worried in Mishpat Gog Magog, look at this Mishnah. It says the same thing. It gave it to you in 12 months. So based on this, and we all know that the Galut is going to end with a big bang of a Geulah that's going to be so much bigger than Mitzrayim that we're going to minimize the Mitzrayim. We're going to continue to speak about it, but we're going to minimize it. We're going to talk about the Galut of the Gog Magog, of the Mashiach. We're still going to always have Zecher Litzat Mitzrayim. There's a lot of sod and secrets in that. Arguments are always connected. Everything goes back to Mitzrayim. But here, what's saying is that a person who was worried about Gog Magog, about that big war, hey, buddy, the same Mishnah that said it was a 12-month of Mishpat Mitzrayim, and during that period, Bnei Israel were saved and protected, you're going to be saved and protected also if you are on the, obviously, right team of learning Torah and doing mitzvot. Okay, very good. Let's continue to the Gemara. Avodah Zara Ayin Hey. So today's Gemara is not connected to the Mishnah. Sometimes you'll have the Gemara connected to the Mishnah. Ayin Hey. Tana B'chulan Tzirichin Tivila Be'arba'im Se'ah. We have actually 2 minutes. We'll read this quickly and then we'll go to pray. מהנה מילי אמר רבא דאמר קרא כל דבר שהיה אשר יבוא באש תעבירו באש וטהר. הוסיף לך הכתוב הטהרה אחרת. תנה בר כפרה. מתוך שנאמר בימי נידה. שומע אני שצריך הזעה שליש ושביעי. תלמוד לומר אח חילק. אם כן, מה תלמוד לומר בימי נידה? מים שנידה טובלת בהן, הווה אומר 40 שאה. Okay, so a person that is in Nida that needs to go into the water should go into a body of water that's 40 se'ah. There's a lot of secrets with that. תנו רבנן והלוקח כלי תשמיש מן הנוכרי, דברים שלא נשתמש בהם מטבילן בהם טהורין. Person who takes a keli from a goy, a nochri, I shouldn't say a goy, from a nochri, because Jewish people are also called goy. So that's the word terminology, wrong terminology. The nochri, or the akum. דברים שלא נשתמש בהם בטבילן והם טהורים. דברים שנשתמש בהן על ידי צונן, כגון כוסות וקיתוניות וצלוחיות, מדיחן ומטבילן והם טהורים. דברים שנשתמש בהן על ידי חמין, כגון היורות, הקומקמוסין ומחמי חמין. קומקמוסין is from the word kumkum. So what he's talking about here is saying that things that went through fire have to go through fire. מחמי חמין, מגילן ומטבילן והם טהורים. דברים שנשתמש בהם על ידי האוד, things that went through the fire, כגון השפודין, והאסקלאות, מלבנן ומטבילן והם טהורים. Talking about libun, it's talking about dipping things in hot water. בכולן שנשתמש בהן עד שלא יטביל, שלא יגעיל, שלא ילבן, תנה חדה אסור ותנה אידך מותר. לא קשה. הכמן דאמר נותן טעם לפגם אסור, הכמן דאמר נותן טעם לפגם מותר. They were both talking about, some said that it had to go through this process, the metal that went through fire, hot water. Some said no, it didn't need it. It didn't need Boker Tov. It didn't need it. What was the argument? One said that the food that was already absorbed into those metal utensils is already going to become distasteful. And by becoming distasteful, even if it went into the food, it didn't matter. While one held no, it was a problem. And so that was why one said it was okay to dip, one not. גאולי נוכרים, תעשה לחמנה הכי משכחת לה. אמר רב חייא ברי דרב הונה לא עשה תורה אלא כדרה בת יומה, דלאו נותן טעם לפגם הוא, וכאן ואילך לשתרה. כסרה כדרה שאינה בת יומה, משום כדרה בת יומה. Okay, we'll stop right here. We got to go inside, and we will continue we'll finish up the Kollel Israel when we are done, then we'll go into our regular day-to-day learning. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen.